Most people, when they go to see the Eiffel Tower, they admire it, they admire the engineering, consider it a kind of engineering feat. But Mahatma was enraged. He thought it was a satanic building he was looking at. When he saw an aircraft flying over the English Channel, he couldn't control his rage. Let's be honest. On the one hand, you have historians who just only see the good in Gandhi, who praise him to the skies. On the other hand, you have historians, left-wing and right-wing historians, who say Gandhi was an agent of the British, an imperialist stooge. The truth is somewhere in between. Based on what the Mahatma wrote in Hind Swaraj, he would have actually supported the Taliban in these archaic, medieval, patriarchal views. Not only in India, across the world, that nobody is willing to listen to any criticism of him. But if you go through Hind Swaraj, I'm very sure all the people who praise Gandhi, they will have a rethink if they are honest. Good evening. I'm very pleased to be here today on Sangam Talks. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here on this august platform to be discussing somebody who should not be so controversial because he is the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi. But he is controversial. And let me explain briefly how I came to write this book. I've been working in the United Nations for about 2 decades across different peacekeeping missions. I've worked in Somalia, Afghanistan, Liberia. And from time to time, I come to India. And whenever I come to India, I pick up new interesting books because sometimes I cannot find those books in these remote locations. On one such trip, a good friend of mine, Narendra, who is an author, he presented a copy to me of a book on Mahatma Gandhi's book, Hind Swaraj, written by a historian working in the Center for Study of Developing Societies, CSDS. So this book, authored by Professor Suresh Sharma, was on Gandhi's Hind Swaraj. It was praising the book a lot. And a copy was presented to me. So when I went back to Kabul, I believe that was my posting there at the time, I went through the book, not expecting to find anything that was surprising in it. But as I read through, I became more and more shocked, more and more disturbed. There was little about the book that I could identify with. There was little about the book that I liked. I was astonished that such a book should have received so much praise. So I thought, has anybody else also felt so critically about this book? And the best way to check this was, of course, to go to Amazon and look for the reviews. So I went to Amazon, checked out the reviews. The book was a bestseller, has been so for many years. And there were about 300-400 reviews. All of them were full of praise. Some readers said that the book changed their life. Some readers said it brought them close to Mahatma Gandhi. Some said it's a fantastic book, must read. As I went through review after review, I found there was hardly any criticism of the book. That shocked me because, frankly, there was very little to praise about the book. I don't want to say the book was completely not worth my time, but apart from the chapters within Hind Swaraj, authored by Mahatma Gandhi, one of his seminal works, apart from the chapters on non-violence, ahimsa, there are hardly any other redeeming features about that book. So that was my initial motivation to write this book, because I thought there must be a criticism of Gandhi's Hind Swaraj, because there are so many ideas within it which are backward, which should be rejected, which are patriarchal, which are not in keeping with what we in India, the direction we should take. And so I began to work on my book, and it's not a very big book. As you'll see, this is the book, The Mahatma's Manifesto, a Critique of Hind Swaraj. I've been lucky enough to find Om Books International, which has taken it out with excellent production values. So let me now come to what I find offensive about the book, what I disagreed about with Mahatma Gandhi in his book. Let me start by speaking about the Mahatma's views on science. Mahatma Gandhi felt that science was a kind of evil manifestation by the devil. He was against all kinds of modernization. He thought the railways was the epitome of Satan's work. He was against cities. He was against industry. He was against factories. So many times people criticize the socialist policies of the late Prime Minister Nehru, and they say that, well, we continued to follow the Hindu rate of growth in India for many years till Mr. Manmohan Singh came and liberalized the economy, and then our economy took off, and subsequently it's been doing much better. But I'd like to say that although India's economy struggled for many decades post-independence, we would have been in a far worse shape than we were had we followed Mahatma Gandhi's views. Because we wouldn't have had any industry, there would have been no IITs, there would have been no Indian Institute of Science, nothing would have been there. India would have been in shambles. I would go so far as to say we won all our wars with Pakistan, but actually if we had followed Gandhi's ideals, there would have been no defense industry, there would have been no defense preparedness. India would have been partitioned multiple times. I'm not speaking here of the partition that took place at the time of our independence, but of partition subsequently. We would have lost all our wars, we would have been a fractured nation, and it's very good, therefore, that we did not follow Mahatma Gandhi's views. I'll come to some other things that Mahatma Gandhi mentions in his book. He is fiercely opposed, for instance, to the use of vaccines. Having worked in the United Nations, I know that the WHO came out recently with a report in which they came to the conclusion that following post-World War, the Second World War till now, 150 million lives have been saved because of vaccination and inoculation, immunization programs. That's a great achievement. But had it been up to Gandhi, he was against vaccination, he was against immunization programs. He said this is the work of the devil, this is the handiwork of evil people. Nobody should use vaccines. It's better to die of smallpox. I'm not putting words into his mouth. He says literally, it is better to die 1,000 times. Vaccination is one of the most barbaric practices that has ever been invented. It's a satanic practice, and it should not be used even by the most barbaric of races. This is Mahatma Gandhi speaking on vaccination. We just had some terrible years with the coronavirus, and had we followed Mahatma Gandhi, there's no question that many people would have died. So they are full of these ideas. When Mahatma Gandhi went to see the Eiffel Tower, most people, when they go to see the Eiffel Tower, they admire it, they admire the engineering, consider it a kind of engineering feat. But Mahatma was enraged. He thought it was a satanic building he was looking at. When he saw an aircraft flying over the English Channel, he couldn't control his rage. So he was against machinery. He was against vaccination. His wife, Kasturba, she was advised penicillin, that penicillin could save her life, and Mahatma Gandhi said, no, she's not going to get something like that. I'm just going to do Ram Dhun. Maybe that will save her life. But on the other hand, when Mahatma himself suffered from malaria not so much later, he allowed chloroquine to be administered to himself. So there are all these various contradictions in the Mahatma. The Mahatma was against the teaching of physics, chemistry, biology. He was against all kinds of industry except for the most simple, primitive handloom industry. In Hind Swaraj, he gives a set of commandments. He says all the lawyers should give up their jobs, all the judges should resign. He doesn't believe in a justice system, you see. He says people should settle their disputes between themselves. What is the need? In ancient India, people settled their disputes just between themselves. And that is not historically true. It is historically inaccurate. We were a developed civilization. We had systems of justice even in ancient India. But Mahatma, when he rejects all these modern instruments of providing justice, of law and order, of democracy, he doesn't even provide an alternative. So he criticizes the British system of democracy. And yes, the British system of democracy was flawed because they had democracy at home, but they practiced tyranny in other countries. But within their country, it was a good system. Democracy is a great system. But the Mahatma did not believe so, but he didn't provide any alternative. So if you read Hind Swaraj, you'll find it is full of criticism of the British Parliament. The British Parliament is compared to a sterile woman. That is also not a good example because, sterile women, there's nothing, you cannot blame the woman for being sterile. It's an unfair metaphor which Mahatma has taken up. And he doesn't really provide an alternative. I should add here that he did not practice democracy also. We can say there are two major instances which I refer to in my book where the Mahatma did not practice democracy. The first is, of course, when Subhash Chandra Bose was elected President of the Indian National Congress. Subhash Bose stood against Gandhi's candidate, Sitaramaiah, and Sitaramaiah was roundly defeated. Gandhi was most upset by that. He said, Sitaramaiah's defeat is my defeat. And then he made it completely impossible for Subhash Chandra Bose to carry on his work as President of the Indian National Congress, which resulted in Mr. Bose resigning and charting out an entirely different pathway to India's independence. So that's one example where the Mahatma was not democratic. But even in the appointment of India's first Prime Minister, Sardar Patel was clearly in the lead. He had the votes of 26 provincial Congress committees. Nehru had only one, but Mahatma asked Sardar Patel to step aside. So that's yet another instance where the Mahatma did not really practice democracy. He did not believe in democracy. He used his own kind of feudal system of influencing various things in India, in the Congress, in the nation. I would say also that the Mahatma and otherwise the Congress itself needs to be blamed to some extent for the terrible deaths that took place during the partition. Tens of thousands of people were massacred when the partition took place, but Dr. Ambedkar had written a book about how all of this could have been foreseen, all of this could have been prevented, some measures could have been taken to prevent the terrible carnage that followed independence. Those measures were not taken. Those are separate issues. I won't say that there was only bad in the Mahatma, there was a lot of good also. In fact, there's a Western movie which had a great title, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. And I think Mahatma Gandhi also, there was much in him that was good. There was much that was even great. For example, the Dandi March, the civil disobedience movement, the burning of British cloth, the promotion of the charkha. All those were part of genius Gandhi. He was a great negotiator. And because of him, we didn't have so many deaths in our freedom movement. These are all wonderful things. Gandhi's writings on pacifism, on non-violence within Hind Swaraj are also great. And they also need to be relevant not only for India, but for the world. But there is good in Gandhi, but there is also bad, and there is also ugly. So I think because Gandhi has just had a particular, he has been reviewed only positively. There hasn't been enough focus on what in Gandhi we should discard. This book is important. It should be discussed. Unfortunately, though, in India, we are not very open-minded. We are not willing to take or listen to any criticism of our great men. And that is an unfortunate thing. When I circulated extracts of my book to various WhatsApp groups, some people were offended. And in India, we tend to become bhaks. It's not only a question of Modi bhakt. Somebody is a Modi bhakt, somebody is a Rahul Gandhi bhakt, somebody is a Mahatma Gandhi bhakt, somebody is a Sonia Gandhi bhakt. There is too much bhakti. And bhakti, as Dr. Ambedkar said, is something that should be reserved for the sacred space, not brought into the secular space. So this is unfortunate. I hope this book will be read widely. It will be a conversation starter. Far be it for me to suggest that Gandhi was not good, that he was not great. There was much that was good and great about him. I repeat that. At the same time, Hind Swaraj itself, there is hardly anything worth preserving in that book. It cannot even be prescribed in schools, because which teacher is going to read out Mahatma Gandhi's chapter where he says, don't teach physics, don't teach chemistry, don't teach biology, don't teach engineering. That is not something which can be taught in schools. So let's be honest. On the one hand, you have historians who just only see the good in Gandhi, who praise him to the skies. On the other hand, you have historians, left-wing and right-wing historians, who say Gandhi was an agent of the British, an imperialist stooge. The truth is somewhere in between. And I hope this book will be a conversation starter. What is also astonishing is that Gandhi's views on education were such that he believed that there's no need to teach physics, no need to teach chemistry, none of the sciences. Even history was not necessary, because history was a cooked-up affair used by the British to foment disputes between Hindus and Muslims. So what should be taught? He was of the view that there should be moral teachings in school. Moral science should be the primary thing that is taught in schools. So in that sense, he was not very different from the Taliban. When I was in Afghanistan, I remembered Gandhi because Gandhi was a past master at negotiation. That was part of genius Gandhi, that he could bring warring sides to agreement. He could hammer out a compromise. Even during the time he was a lawyer, in most of his cases, he did not win his cases, but he brought both the sides together and he hammered out a compromise. So I thought of Gandhi in all these difficult negotiations when I was working with UN peacekeeping missions. But I also thought of Gandhi when I had dealings with the Taliban in Afghanistan, because you see, the Taliban did not believe in education. They believed only in moral education, which they thought was all exemplified in the Quran. They did not want the sciences to be taught. They were against vaccination. I was involved for some time with some health programs, and the Taliban resisted them. We wanted to give some gynecological assistance to some of the women in the tribal areas. And the tribal elders, they stood up and they said, no, we will not allow our women to be examined. And we said, the woman may die. This will save her life. And they said, a bit like Gandhi, it's better if she dies, but we don't want her to be examined. We don't want any medical intervention. There was strong resistance to vaccination programs, to immunization. All those things had to be overcome. And I couldn't help but think that based on what the Mahatma wrote in Hind Swaraj, he would have actually supported the Taliban in these archaic, medieval, patriarchal views. One of Gandhi's helpers, his grandniece Manu, she wanted to study further. So she told the Mahatma, I want to go to a city in what is now Pakistan to pick up a qualification. The Mahatma said, why do you want to go there? This is all nonsense. You stay with me and work here. There's no need for you to go and pick up a qualification. These qualifications are useless. She wanted to learn English. The Mahatma himself could speak and write beautifully, elegantly in English, but he didn't want his grandniece. And he writes in Hind Swaraj, there is no need for Indians to be learning English. His son wanted to dress up well, like Gandhi himself used to. When Gandhi was a barrister in London, he used to dress up very fashionably. He used to wear the latest clothes tailored in Bond Street. In fact, he once wrote to his brother saying that my clothes are very good, but I need a gold watch to hang the way the English gentleman used to do as a lawyer. That'll look nice. And the brother scraped up the money and sent it to him. So Gandhi had all these obsessions about dressing very well. This was later Gandhi. But later Gandhi could not understand that other people, they also wanted to dress up well. He was furious at his son when he wanted to put on westernized clothing. He was angry with Manu because she wanted to do formal studies and pick up a qualification. Was that so wrong, really? Wasn't he imposing his will, his mature mind against a young girl? What chance did she have? So, not only in political arena was Gandhi a bit of a dictator, within his family also he was a dictator. And all this is reflected in the writings in Hind Swaraj, where he says all the rich people should give up their factories and start to spin handloom. All the lawyers should resign, all the judges should resign, all the doctors should resign. In fact, he didn't have much of a high regard for doctors. He said the quacks, they are much better than the doctors. And doctors should all resign. Engineers should all resign. But if all these people resign, Mahatma Gandhi ji, what are they going to do? Are they all going to just be spinning cloth? He really didn't have any alternatives. So the Hind Swaraj is a diatribe against any kind of modernization, any kind of industry, the trains, but it's also full of contradictions because Gandhi himself used trains, Gandhi himself used some machinery, he used a watch. He lived simply, but he tried to impose that simplicity on other people. He didn't believe in live and let live. I think we should have across the nation a fulsome discussion of Gandhiji's contributions. We should not consider him to be a saint. Neither should we consider him to be a sinner. As Oscar Wilde famously wrote, every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. Gandhi was neither saint nor sinner. And I hope, reading my critique of Hind Swaraj, a clearer, more authentic portrait of Mahatma Gandhi will appear. The original Hind Swaraj has also been attached to my review, my criticism, so that everybody can be sure. Because the Mahatma is such a figure that it's difficult to challenge him. I'm reminded, in fact, of a story I read in my childhood, The Emperor's New Clothes. What happens in The Emperor's New Clothes is that the emperor hires the services of a tailor who says, this is some very fine fabric, but actually he's naked. But nobody has the courage to point out that the emperor is naked, except for a young boy who says, oh, the emperor is naked. I feel that Gandhiji has such stature. He commands such stature not only in India, across the world, that nobody is willing to listen to any criticism of him. But if you go through Hind Swaraj, I'm very sure all the people who praise Gandhi, they will have a rethink if they are honest. Ramchandra Guha is one of the historians who admires Gandhi a lot. He has written so much on Gandhi. And I like what he's written. But even he admits that Hind Swaraj is quite crude. He would not be honest enough to say there is much in Gandhi which needs to be discarded, which is not relevant. On the other hand, the historians who oppose Gandhi, who call him an agent of the British, they don't see anything positive in Gandhi. And I believe they need to. because he had many contributions, many great contributions. He served our nation well in many ways, but we need to have a balanced perspective. There is a good side, a bad side, and there is also an ugly side, but that is not the theme of this particular book. What was the most shocking thing that I read in Gandhi's Hind Swaraj? Possibly it was his views on the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. It was his views on the indigenous people who were massacred in Australia and the Americas. Shockingly, as you go through Hind Swaraj, Gandhi blames the people who were massacred. He does not have good things to say for the people who were massacred in Jallianwala Bagh. He said they did not display true courage because they ran and fled. And he has similar things to say about the indigenous people who were slaughtered in Australia, the American Indians who were slaughtered in the United States, across the Americas really. He says they did not display the Shakti of non-violence. They behaved more like cowards. That's an astonishing thing. In my experience, the people who are genuinely courageous, they never blame other people for being cowardly. Or rather, they are not quick to jump to accuse other people of cowardice. How could the Mahatma have blamed the people who were massacred? How could he have apportioned blame to them, to those who were massacred at the Jallianwala Bagh? This has surprised many historians at the time, why Gandhi did this. It's astonishing. I will absolutely not say that Gandhiji himself suffered from cowardice. That is not my... But I think that he had blinkers on. Instead of focusing all his energy on the people who caused these terrible massacres, there was no need to express sympathy for General Dyer, which he did. There was no need to express contempt for the people who were massacred in the Americas, in Australia. That is shocking, and it is, in a sense, beneath Gandhi for having done so. I hope this talk will provide a fresh perspective on the contributions of the Mahatma. I have written a book, a children's book on the Mahatma, in which I have commented on much of the good which he has done. And this book is there to set the balance. Some people say, they ask me as an author, you've written so many good things about Gandhi and you've also written so many bad things about Gandhi. Where is the truth? I think it was Oscar Wilde, I come to him again, who said that the true mark of a sophisticated man, a sophisticated intellect rather, can be a feminine one, is to keep two opposing ideas simultaneously in the mind. Because we like to see things in black and white, but the truth is often not black or white, it is a shade of gray. Thank you for this opportunity, and I do hope to see you again sometime. Thanks.